The room went silent the second those words hit the internet. One diss track. One name. And suddenly, people weren't just talking about music anymore. They were talking about pain that never should have been touched. Fans couldn't believe what they were hearing. Some called it fearless. Others said it crossed a line you can never uncross. But here's the part that made everyone stop scrolling. Wallow didn't respond with more disrespect. He responded with something nobody expected. At first, it looked like another chapter in rap's never-ending back and forth. NBA YoungBoy has never been the type to bite his tongue, and his fans know that. But when Gillie's late son became part of the conversation, everything changed. This wasn't just about bars anymore. It became personal. That's when Wallo stepped in. Instead of matching anger with anger, he spoke from experience. His message wasn't built on threats or insults. It came from someone who's lived through loss, prison, and rebuilding a life from nothing. You could hear the emotion behind every word. He wasn't trying to win an argument. He was trying to remind people that some pain doesn't disappear when the cameras turn off. And that's why his response spread so fast. Even people who disagreed with him admitted it hit differently. It wasn't about choosing sides. It was about remembering there's a real family behind every headline, every lyric, and every viral moment. In the end, the biggest statement wasn't made in a song. It was made by someone who refused to let hate have the last word. Nobody expected a rap feud to turn into a conversation about grief. The moment NBA YoungBoy's alleged diss started making the rounds online, social media exploded. Clips spread across every platform in minutes. Fans rushed to hear the lyrics for themselves, while others argued over what was actually said. Some believed it was just another controversial bar. Others felt a line had been crossed that should never have been touched. Before anyone knew the full story, thousands of people had already picked a side. But the biggest response hadn't even happened yet. The reason this moment felt so different had everything to do with the history behind it. Gillie the Kid and Wallo aren't just podcast hosts who talk about hip-hop. Over the years, they built a reputation for speaking honestly, even when the conversations became uncomfortable. Their show gave artists a place to tell their stories without feeling attacked. They talked about success, failure, family, and second chances. That honesty earned respect from people across the music industry. Which is why many fans wondered how they would react if the situation became personal. Then there was the heartbreaking loss that changed everything. Gillie's son, YNG Cheese, was tragically killed in 2023. His passing shocked the hip-hop community and left an entire family grieving in public. Messages of support poured in from artists, athletes, and fans around the world. Even people who had never met him could feel the pain his family was carrying. It wasn't just another headline. It was a reminder that behind every public figure is a real family trying to survive unimaginable heartbreak. That is what made the alleged diss feel so heavy. In rap, artists have always pushed boundaries. Diss tracks have shaped careers, ended friendships, and created legendary rivalries. Fans almost expect personal attacks when emotions run high. But bringing up someone's child, especially one who is no longer here, is something many people see differently. Whether someone supported YoungBoy or not, the conversation quickly shifted away from music. Instead, people started asking where the line should be drawn. As the debate grew louder, reactions came from every direction. Some defended the idea that battle rap has no rules and that nothing should be off limits. Others argued that certain topics should never become entertainment. Podcasts covered the story. YouTube creators broke down every lyric they could find. Comment sections turned into endless arguments. Everyone seemed to have an opinion, but very few people stopped to think about the emotional weight behind the headlines. Meanwhile, Wallo stayed quiet. That silence caught people's attention almost as much as the controversy itself. Anyone who has followed his journey knows he isn't afraid to speak his mind. After spending years in prison, he rebuilt his life from the ground up and became one of the most respected motivational voices in hip-hop. He has always encouraged people to think before reacting. So when he didn't immediately fire back, many wondered if he was carefully choosing his next move. The longer that silence lasted, the more curiosity grew. Some believed legal action might follow. Others expected a harsh response aimed directly at YoungBoy. Rumors spread faster than facts, and every new post seemed to create another theory. People refreshed their phones waiting for something, anything, that would explain what was happening behind the scenes. The internet loves quick reactions, but this situation refused to move at the speed everyone expected. Then something changed. Instead of responding with anger, Wallo began speaking from a place that very few people could challenge. His words weren't focused on winning an argument or getting the last laugh. They reflected years of pain, growth, and lessons learned the hard way. That approach surprised many people because it shifted the entire conversation. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about a diss anymore. It became about how someone chooses to respond when they are carrying wounds the rest of the world can never fully understand. And that response would soon become the most talked about moment of all. When Wallow finally decided to speak, people expected fireworks. They expected insults, threats, or another round of headlines. Instead, they got something much harder to ignore. His response wasn't loud. It was calm. And somehow, that made it even more powerful. Rather than feeding the drama, he focused on something the internet often forgets. Behind every viral clip is a real family dealing with real pain. That message landed differently because it didn't sound rehearsed. It sounded personal. Anyone familiar with Wallow's story understood why his words carried so much weight. He spent years behind bars before completely changing his life. After leaving prison, he dedicated himself to helping young people avoid the same mistakes he once made. Every speech, every interview, and every conversation came from lived experience instead of theory. So when he talked about pain, healing, and self-control, people listened. He wasn't pretending to be perfect. He was showing what growth actually looks like. That became the biggest contrast in the entire situation. The internet often rewards whoever speaks first or shouts the loudest. Wallow chose a different path. He didn't rush to score points online. He didn't try to embarrass anyone for views. Instead, he reminded people that words have consequences long after a trending topic disappears. A diss track may last a few minutes, but the emotions it stirs can stay with families forever. As clips of his response spread across social media, the reaction started changing. At first, many people had been focused only on the lyrics. Now they were talking about respect, accountability, and the limits of competition. Some fans who originally defended the diss admitted they hadn't considered how deeply those words could affect a grieving family. Others praised Wallow for refusing to let anger control his response. The conversation slowly shifted away from music and towards something much bigger. That doesn't mean everyone agreed. Hip-hop has always been filled with different opinions about what belongs in a battle. Some argued that rap has never had boundaries and that artists have always attacked personal issues. They pointed to famous feuds from the past where almost nothing was considered off-limits. Others responded that times change and people grow. Just because something happened before doesn't automatically make it right today. That disagreement kept the story alive as fans debated where the line should be drawn. Meanwhile, Gillie remained at the center of everyone's thoughts. Losing a child is a pain that few people can truly understand. For many viewers, that fact overshadowed everything else. They remembered the emotional videos he shared after his son's passing. They remembered the tears, the prayers, and the support that poured in from across the entertainment world. Those memories made the latest controversy feel even heavier because it reopened wounds that had never fully healed. Another reason Wallow's response resonated was because it matched the message he has been delivering for years. He has often said that strength isn't about reacting to every insult. Real strength comes from choosing discipline when emotions are running high. That philosophy isn't always easy to follow, especially when someone attacks the people you love most. Yet in this situation, he practiced exactly what he had been preaching. For many supporters, that consistency mattered just as much as his actual words. As more creators discussed the situation, they noticed something interesting. The biggest headlines weren't celebrating the diss anymore. They were highlighting Wallow's response. That shift showed how quickly public opinion can change. One moment, everyone was talking about controversy. The next, they were talking about character. It proved that sometimes the strongest statement isn't made through aggression. Sometimes it comes from refusing to let anger decide your next move. Even so, the debate was far from over. Fans continued searching for hidden meanings, replaying interviews, and analyzing every public statement. Some wondered whether this would lead to another exchange. Others hoped the situation would simply come to an end before it became even more personal. No matter which side people supported, one thing had become clear. This was no longer just another rap feud. It had turned into a conversation about grief, respect, and the choices people make when emotions are pushed to their limit. In the end, Wallow's response reminded many people of something easy to forget in today's social media world. Every headline involves real human beings. Every trending topic affects someone's family. Every viral moment leaves a mark that cameras cannot always capture. Whether people agreed with him or not, his words forced millions to pause before rushing to judgment. And as the story continued to unfold, one question still remained unanswered. Would this moment become another chapter in hip-hop's endless cycle of conflict, or would it finally encourage someone to choose a different path? As the days passed, something unexpected happened. The headlines slowly became less about the alleged diss and more about what it revealed. People weren't only debating lyrics anymore. They were asking deeper questions about the culture itself. Has competition gone too far? Can an artist say absolutely anything in the name of entertainment? Or should there still be limits when real families are involved? Those questions spread far beyond this single situation, and they forced even longtime hip-hop fans to stop and think. One reason the discussion grew so quickly was because everyone could see two completely different approaches playing out in real time. On one side was the fast-moving world of social media, where shocking moments are rewarded with millions of views. On the other side was Wallow's message, which focused on patience, reflection, and self-control. Those two ideas couldn't have been more different. One demanded an immediate reaction. The other encouraged people to slow down before speaking. That contrast became impossible to ignore. For many supporters, Wallow's response reflected the lessons he has repeated for years. He has often talked about how one emotional decision can change a person's future forever. Having spent decades rebuilding his own life, he understands how quickly anger can lead to regret. That perspective gave his message a level of credibility that couldn't be faked. He wasn't reading from a script. He was speaking from experience, and people could hear the difference. At the same time, fans of NBA YoungBoy defended his style by pointing out that controversy has always surrounded his career. They argued that he has never been afraid to challenge expectations or say what others refused to say. To them, raw emotion has always been part of his music. Whether people agreed with his words or not, they believed artists should have the freedom to express themselves without outside limits. That argument kept the conversation balanced because it reminded everyone that fans often view the same moment through completely different lenses. Still, one fact remained impossible to ignore. Grief changes everything. A person who has lost a loved one hears words differently than someone watching from a distance. For Gillie and his family, this wasn't just another trending topic that would disappear after a few days. It involved memories, heartbreak, and emotions that continue long after the internet moves on. That reality gave the story a level of seriousness that separated it from most rap feuds. The public reaction reflected that emotional weight. Some people admitted they had shared clips before knowing the full context. Others deleted posts after realizing how sensitive the situation had become. Even creators who normally focused on drama began encouraging respectful conversations instead of fueling more conflict. It wasn't a complete change, but it showed that many people understood the difference between discussing music and exploiting someone's personal tragedy. Then another interesting pattern emerged. Instead of creating endless back-and-forth exchanges, Wallow's comments seemed to slow the momentum of the argument. The attention shifted away from insults and toward personal growth. Many viewers praised the way he stayed focused instead of letting emotions take complete control. They believed his response carried more impact because it wasn't designed to go viral. Ironically, that restraint made it spread even faster across social media. There was also a larger lesson hiding beneath the headlines. Fame often creates the illusion that public figures are somehow different from everyone else. Fans see interviews, performances, and viral moments, but they rarely see the quiet moments at home. They don't see birthdays with empty chairs, family dinners filled with painful memories, or the private conversations that never make the news. Wallow's response reminded people that celebrity doesn't erase human emotion. Loss feels the same whether someone is famous or completely unknown. As more time passed, the outrage slowly settled, but the discussion never truly disappeared. People continued bringing up the situation whenever conversations about respect in hip-hop surfaced. It became another example used in debates about where artistic freedom ends and personal responsibility begins. No single response could satisfy everyone, and no opinion completely ended the argument. Yet almost everyone agreed on one thing. This moment had become much bigger than a single lyric. Looking back, what made the story unforgettable wasn't simply the controversy itself. It was the difference between reaction and response. One happened in the heat of emotion. The other came from years of hard-earned wisdom. That contrast is what people continued talking about long after the original headlines faded. And perhaps that's the biggest takeaway of all. In a world that constantly rewards the loudest voice, sometimes the calmest one leaves the deepest impact and stays with people long after everyone else has stopped talking. By this point, the story had grown far beyond the original controversy. It wasn't just hip-hop fans paying attention anymore. People who rarely followed rap were now discussing the situation because it touched on something universal. Almost everyone understands what it means to lose someone they love. That shared understanding changed the way many people viewed the entire conversation. Suddenly, the biggest question wasn't who won the argument. It was whether anyone really wins when personal tragedy becomes part of public entertainment. One detail kept standing out. Wallow never tried to make himself the center of the story. Even though millions of people wanted to hear his opinion, his focus remained on the family and the bigger message. That choice earned respect from people on all sides of the debate. Some agreed with every word he said. Others didn't. But many admitted that he handled the situation with a level of maturity that is becoming increasingly rare online. That reaction says a lot about today's culture. Social media often encourages people to answer instantly. The faster the response, the more attention it gets. Taking time to think can almost seem like a weakness. But Wallow showed the opposite. His silence wasn't hesitation. It was discipline. By refusing to react in the heat of the moment, he controlled the conversation instead of letting the conversation control him. Meanwhile, the internet continued doing what it always does. Old interviews resurfaced. Past disagreements were brought back into the spotlight. Fans searched for hidden meanings in lyrics, podcast clips, and social media posts. Every small detail became another topic for debate. Some theories gained millions of views before anyone confirmed whether they were even true. It was another reminder that online discussions often move much faster than the facts. Even with all the speculation, one thing remained clear. The loss of Gillie's son was never just another news story. For his family, every mention of his name carries memories that most people will never experience. Friends remember his smile. Loved ones remember conversations that can never happen again. Those moments cannot be replaced, no matter how much time passes. That reality gave Wallow's message an emotional weight that was difficult to dismiss. Many viewers also began reflecting on the influence artists have over their audiences. Music reaches millions of people every day. Lyrics are repeated in cars, schools, gyms, and homes across the world. Because of that influence, some argued that artists carry a responsibility to think carefully about the messages they put into the world. Others believed creative freedom should remain unlimited. Neither side completely convinced the other, but the discussion itself became one of the biggest outcomes of the entire situation. Then another interesting shift took place. Instead of focusing only on conflict, people started sharing clips of Wallow's motivational speeches from years earlier. Those videos suddenly felt more relevant than ever. Viewers noticed that his response wasn't different from the advice he had always given. He consistently talked about growth, accountability, and making better choices. That consistency made his words feel authentic. He wasn't changing his message because cameras were watching. He was living by the same principles he had been teaching all along. For many people, that became the most powerful lesson of all. Character isn't revealed when life is easy. It appears when emotions are running high and everyone expects the worst. Anyone can respond with anger. It takes much more strength to respond with purpose. Whether someone agreed with Wallo or not, his actions gave people something to think about long after the headlines faded. As the attention slowly began to move toward the next viral story, the impact of this moment remained. Conversations about respect in hip-hop continued across podcasts, interviews, and comment sections. Artists and fans alike were reminded that words can travel far beyond the studio. A single lyric can spark debates that last for weeks. More importantly, those words can affect people who never asked to be part of the spotlight in the first place. Looking back, this wasn't simply a story about a diss. It became a story about choices. One choice created controversy. Another choice encouraged reflection. The contrast between those two paths is why so many people are still talking about the situation today. Long after the trending hashtags disappear and the news cycle moves on, that difference will likely be what people remember most. Because in moments like these, the loudest response is not always the strongest one. Sometimes the message that truly lasts is the one delivered with restraint, compassion, and the courage to rise above the conflict instead of adding more fuel to it. If you made it all the way to the end, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think there should be limits in rap battles? Or do you believe anything goes once the music starts? Drop your opinion in the comments below, and let's have a real conversation while keeping it respectful. Everyone sees these situations differently, and your perspective could add something valuable to the discussion. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more stories that go beyond the headlines, make sure you hit the like button. It really helps this channel reach more people who enjoy honest conversations about hip-hop, music culture, and the biggest moments making waves online. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. That way, you'll never miss our next video when another major story unfolds. We cover the details, the context, and the moments everyone else misses. Also, if there's another artist, interview, or controversy you want us to break down next, leave your suggestion in the comments. We read them, and many of our videos come directly from your ideas. Thanks for spending your time with us today. We truly appreciate every view, every comment, and every subscription. Stay safe, stay respectful, and we'll see you in the next video.